International Conference on Social and Political Sciences 2020 Forum. I'm Lucy Max from Universitas 11 Maret Surakarta, along with my senior partner, Professor Ismi Dwi Astuti Nurhaini. I will make presentation with title Gender Mainstreaming in Government Programs Between Administrative Rigorism and Demand for Dialogue. I'll start my presentation with giving a highlight description about gender mainstreaming program as government programs of the Ministry of Marine Affairs and Fisheries of the Republic of Indonesia. There are 3 points of view about this program. First, gender mainstreaming program is a choice for development strategies based on advocacy for gender equality. Second, gender mainstreaming program is about integrating problems, aspirations, and needs of fishermen and fisherwomen. Third, gender mainstreaming program as the policies planning, implementing, monitoring, and evaluating. This aspect is executed with strictly administratively, of course, by the Ministry of Marine Affairs and Fisheries and applied nationally throughout Indonesia. Now the question is, what problems were found in the realization of that program? There is at least 2 things were observed. First, from the ministry sides, in which related with strategy, tactics, implementation, monitoring, and evaluation aspect. And second, from society sides, we can mention some example of cases like insurance for fishermen and fisherwomen, fisher cards changed to participate in trainings and procurement of catching equipment, and the opportunity for fisherwomen to get involved in policy making. This article is meant to give a second thought on how dialogue in gender mainstreaming has made possible an involvement. If Indonesian people is assumed to have involved in the program, why then there are still individuals or fishing communities that are being marginalized from the program result? Why do they still get advocacy from different non-profit NGOs if the program has achieved the objective of gender equality? Scrutiny of concepts. For the concept of public sphere, I use the idea from Habermas, especially in the context of strategic communication. Then to identify the meaning of individual involvement in the public sphere, I use Bentele and note have 3 types of encounter and model of individual involvement. Furthermore, to explore the concept of dialogue, I use the ideas from Martin Buber with emphasis dialogue as an attempt to create something together through discussion and dialogue. Next, because gender mainstreaming program is a government program, we need to understand how government program implementation can get community involvement. And the last concept is about the presence of women in public sphere, in which I use the ideas about freedom and plurality from Hannah Arendt. For methodology, this article is basically a literature review. I use gender mainstreaming program backgrounds, objective legal basis institution, and some documents of annual work reports on gender mainstreaming as materials to understand gender mainstreaming program as a strategic choice. I get the data sourced through official website of the Ministry of Marine Affairs and Fisheries of the Republic of Indonesia. Secondly, to identify problems in the realization of the gender mainstreaming program, I conducted data search through annual report on gender mainstreaming program and the data from NGOs that advocate for fishing communities. Besides that, I also use some of the result of scientific research and fishermen families and fisherwomen. Then I use all the materials or data as the basis for analyzing the public sphere and dialogue in the realization of gender mainstreaming program. At this stage, I use a lot of research findings to show the conceptual relevance as well as to differentiate the substance of problem at hand and what can be done to solve this existing problem. For analysis in each of these models of individual encounter, I identified how the public sphere was formed, how the dialogue was built or not built in it, and how the presence of women gained momentum, which showed the essence of women's individual awareness. Some basic notes that I can give and outline is the strength of argument that binds the individual involvement in public sphere sits under the shadows of a more dominant individual or group in public sphere. For me, it seems that the ministry will still dominate the public sphere in this model. How about dialogue? For the well-served fisher communities in gender mainstreaming program with a good management of capture fish, the discussion doesn't always last in the critical manner. After all, things were assessed as giving positive impact on the betterment of people's living condition and therefore were supported without critical evaluation of various training programs, then the discussion in public sphere become biased with personal interest and were no longer reflective. There are always critical people in public sphere who are combat ready to struggle for something they consider right. And this can only be realized if an individual has got to step forward with critical reasoning of discussion in public sphere. It also illustrates how the dialogue can be meaningful for the presence of every element in the communication that is built about the gender mainstreaming program. The public space will be open to all possibilities of motivation for involvement. How do we understand the presence of women in public sphere? Hannah Arendt's recommendation seems validated. Women have been able to opt for something new. They step forward openly to struggle for life as fisherwomen. How about the state? Does the existing system, needless to mention, social system support the woman's choice? For me, the answer to this question is worth further verifying. In the conclusion, I divided into three main parts: communication, feedback, and dialogue. Reflection of public sphere in gender mainstreaming program indicates that first, the existing communication has not touched the substance of dialogue as a technique to construct a public opinion that support the achievement of this program. Second, the individual subjective formal freedom lies on in the ownership or an expression of assessment, contention, and personal recommendation about state affairs. The program management can easily find expression and personal recommendation from different related elements, comments, opinions, assessment, action, and varied forms of information from related elements, on the other hand, demonstrate the phase of awareness and freedom, but lack of space for dialogue, not merely to communication, two-way communication, finally causes the program management to become trapped in the hermeneutic circle of strategic, tactics, and operation of the program. The final important point of this presentation is how to interpret the analysis findings of this article in the context of them strengthening resilience society in the disruptive era. I'm trying to see how empowering for resilience community can be done through scientific research. Various research that have been conducted on the dynamics of the operational fieldwork, relationship, and the condition of fisher communities must become the basis now for the mapping out substantial problems. Critical reflection on the dialogue and public sphere in the government's program of strategic communication becomes one of the methods to advocate state hands-on policies for a better living condition of the people. From the academic perspective, evaluation of the practice of strategic communication can enable the academician and practitioners as well to learn many new things to avoid stagnation in the application of strategic communication. That's all my presentation. Hopefully all be useful. Thank you.